All right, got an exam on the horizon, and maybe you're feeling a little iffy about malware? Well, don't sweat it. You are in exactly the right spot. This is your super fast 5-minute exam guide. We're going to cut through the noise and get you exactly what you need to know.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll cover what malware is. Then we'll run through the main types you've got to know. We'll definitely tackle that big one, virus versus worm. After that, a quick look at how we analyze it, and we'll wrap it all up with a quick revision to make sure it all sticks.
Okay, first things first, what exactly are we talking about when we say malware? Let's go ahead and define the enemy.
It's actually pretty straightforward. Malware is just a mashup of two words, malicious and software. And that's really the key word to lock in your brain, malicious. It's any piece of software that was intentionally built to do something bad, to mess with your computer, your network, or your phone. Simple as that.
Now for your exam, here's a really smart way to think about this. The main goals of malware, they line up perfectly with what we call the CIA triad of security. It wants to steal your secrets, right? That's an attack on confidentiality. It wants to damage or change your systems. That's an attack on integrity. And it wants to shut things down so you can't use them. Yep, that's an attack on availability. Remembering that connection is going to score you some serious points.
All right, so now that we know what malware is, let's meet the cast of characters. Think of this as the rogues gallery, the main types you absolutely have to recognize for your test. And first up, we have the classic Trojan horse. And it works exactly like the old Greek story. It pretends to be something useful, a free game or a helpful tool. You willingly let it into your system and bam, it opens up a secret backdoor for the bad guys to sneak right in. It doesn't spread by itself. It tricks you into inviting it in.
Then there's ransomware. I like to call this one the digital kidnapper. It literally holds your files hostage. It gets in, locks them all up with strong encryption, and then a scary message pops up demanding money, a ransom, to get them back. If you need a famous example, just remember WannaCry. Okay, now for the sneaky ones. You've got spyware and adware. Spyware is like a little spy that hides on your computer, secretly watching everything you type, collecting your passwords, your bank info, all that good stuff. And adware? That's its super annoying cousin that just floods your screen with endless unwanted pop-up ads.
And finally, we have the ultimate master of stealth, the Rootkit. Its entire job is to be invisible. It digs itself so deep into the core of your operating system, the root level, that it can hide itself and other malware from your antivirus. These things are nasty and super hard to find.
Okay, everyone, listen up. If there's one thing you're almost guaranteed to see on your exam, it's this: virus versus worm. Let's make sure you know this one inside and out. So let me ask you, what's the #1 most important difference between a virus and a worm? Take a second. It all comes down to how they spread. The answer? It's all about whether it needs a human to help it spread. A virus is like a parasite. It has to attach itself to a legitimate file, like a document or an application. And it can't do anything until you run that file. You have to click it, open it, something. A worm, on the other hand, is completely independent. It's a standalone program that can replicate itself and spread across the network all by itself, no human help needed. That's why worms can spread like wildfire. And hey, if you need a little trick to remember this for the test, here you go. A virus needs a vehicle, and that vehicle is you. But a worm can travel the whole wide world, the network, all on its own.
Okay, so we've covered what malware is and met the main players. But how do the good guys, the cybersecurity analysts, actually figure this stuff out? This is where the detective work begins. There are really two main ways to do this. First is static analysis. Think of this like a bomb squad looking at the blueprints of a bomb. You're analyzing the malware's code and structure without actually letting it run. It's totally safe. Then you have dynamic analysis. This is like detonating the bomb, but inside a super strong, reinforced room. You let the malware run, but in a totally safe, isolated environment called a sandbox, so you can watch exactly what it does. So what does that look like in the real world? Well, for static analysis, an analyst might use a tool like VirusTotal to check the file's reputation. For dynamic analysis, they'll fire it up in a sandbox. And what are they looking for? They're hunting for clues called indicators of compromise, or IOCs. These are the digital fingerprints the malware leaves behind. All right, you're doing awesome. We're on the home stretch now. Let's do a super quick quiz to hammer these points home and get you ready for that exam. Ready? First one, what's the malware that locks your files and demands cash? You got it, ransomware. Next up,
The one that spreads all by itself across a network?
That's a worm. And the last one for you, what do we call it when we analyze malware without running the code? Perfect. That's static analysis. And there you have it. In just a few minutes, you've covered the essentials. You know how to spot the big types of malware. But what if malware learns to hide? That's the next big challenge, right? How it evades detection. That's a whole other story. For now, go ace that exam.